governance that can respond to the rapid changes. Increased pressure from an informed and active public to increase stakeholder engagement and improve open and transparent policy making becomes imperative. Why do we say informed and active public? It's because of the period where we are living in, where it is also described that it's owed to the sources of, owing to new sources of competition and redistribution and decentralization of power and information brought about by the new technologies. So what is at risk? What is at risk when we do not have a system of public participation that aligns to the needs of citizens is a situation where we have a system that falls out of sync with the people it intends to serve. And that is not what we want for Kenya at the national level and at the county level. So this increases the need for leaders to harness their collective intelligence. That is when a large and diverse group of people is collectively smarter than any individual. So harness the collective intelligence of their constituents, citizens, in the policy development and implementation. And a few sources have already been cited, for example, what is going on with the finance bill, public participation. I want to end with a quote from the Global Parliamentary Report of 2022, which says that one way to bring about transformative and cultural shift in public engagement by Parliament is to establish an innovation task force. By embracing innovation in their own processes and leading public debate about the future, parliaments have an opportunity to present themselves as forward-thinking and forward-looking institutions. And so, as an organization, as Heinz-Edel Foundation, one way we seek to support actors, mainly policymakers in this, is through a project we call Agile Governance, where we have also interacted with the Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training in holding an initial parliamentary roundtable. The project seeks to support policymakers in addressing the broad challenge of a less responsive government and policy-making architecture to rapidly evolving people-driven governance and policy environment. So we look forward to a fruitful engagement, and thank you for the opportunity on behalf of the other partners present. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert Sankafusho, for those remarks. And the Heinz-Edel Foundation we have done a few roundtables with them, and we hope, Chief Guests, Madam Chair of the board, commissioners, that when we bring this to the board, they can also become a formal partner of the CPST so that we can run some programs with them. At this juncture, I want to recognize also Professor Ambassador Maria Nzomo, a member of the CPST board, who is joining us virtually. She will continue joining us until tomorrow. She has a session that she's going to be chairing. At this juncture, allow me to invite the chairperson of the CPST board, Honorable Rachel Ameso, who will then take over from here to invite the chief guest, and then later on we'll have the keynote speaker before we go for a group photo. Before you come, Madam Chair, I recognize the presence of another board member, Commissioner Derito Kenywa. Asante sana, we recognize you. So we have several members of the CPST board present. I appreciate you and I thank you all for coming. Karibu sana, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Edie, that's Executive Director, Professor Nyokabi. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you for this event, our third symposium. Karibuni sana. Leader of Majority in National Assembly, Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah, the commissioners who are here present and members of the board, I'll be giving you an opportunity, one of you, just to come and represent the others who are not here, because we have quite a number of activities. So some will be joining us, and you'll be having them in other sessions. They'll be chairing various sessions. Honorable members who are here, both from the National Assembly and from the Senate, our chief guest, Professor Governor Kivuta Kibwana, the clerk of the Senate, who is also the Secretary of Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Jeremiah Nyegenye, our DG, who will be here at any time, he will be joining us. That is Clement Nandieri, DG Parliamentary Service Commission, Professor Nyokabi Kamau, our Executive Director, CPST, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Yeah, it is with this tremendous pleasure that I join you all for this important two-day event. Allow me to express my sincere appreciation to each one of you for making time out of your busy schedules to honor the invitation to be present here today. I also want to thank the Executive Director, Madam Nyokabi, and her team for organizing the 3rd Annual Parliamentary Symposium themed Effective Public Participation, the Big Question for Legislatures. Honorable members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in Kenya, public participation is considered a crucial pillar of our Constitution. It promotes democracy by providing the citizenry with the opportunity to take part in decision-making processes. It is meant to ensure citizens are heard and are able to actively participate in decision and activities that impact their life and livelihood. When on that, I just want to bring to the attention of our guests here. The other day, we were with the leader of majority, and we had gone to Canada for a training, and we had about 10 other parliaments. So when the Kenyan team was we did our presentation, and we brought in the issue of public participation. And I can assure you that everybody was wondering how. That means that the Kenyan Parliament, we are much, much far ahead. And those are international, worldwide. Even the richest country was there. We had Australia, we had Canada, but they were so keen about this public participation. And Madam Professor Nyokabi, that will mean that we'll have to organize an international symposia that can bring other parliaments. I'm so grateful that we have the team here from Zimbabwe, because the next time we do an international symposia, I believe you shall come to join hands with us. As I continue, the Constitution under Article 1 affirms that sovereign power belongs to the people, while under Article 118, 1b, it requires Parliament to facilitate public participation. And the question was here, who is to take care of those who are participating? And this involvement in legislative and other business of Parliament and its committees. It is further provides that Parliament shall conduct its business in an open manner and its sitting, and of those its committees shall open to the public. In participation on our legislative processes, it's open to all members of the public, either individually or as organized groups. Good governance can then depend through interaction between Parliament and the public with an aim of making acceptable and better decisions. This involves informing and listening, dialogue, debate, and analysis, and implementation of agreed solutions. Indeed, the Constitution of Kenya provides that Parliament shall not bar anyone from participating in public affairs on any ground such as age, race, color, gender, or political affiliation. Further, Article 10, 2A recognizes public participation as one of the national values and principles of governance, therefore. Honorable members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the importance of public participation is also anchored in the National Assembly and Senate standing orders, which mandate the respective committees to which a bill is committed to facilitate public participation. Further, public participation is an essential in financial matters, especially the budget making process. And now, for those who are familiar, we have budget making process that is going on, and also we have the discussions that are going on regarding the finance bill, and that is all on public participation. The Public Finance Framework and Articles 201, 221, and 232 of the Constitution of Kenya requires that the public participation be integrated in the consideration of financial matters. In the recent past, we have seen members of the public make submissions and attend public hearings to give their views on financial matters. Currently, the contentious finance bill is under consideration and is expected to elicit significant reactions from members of the public. That indeed is the essence of our democracy in Kenya. Honorable members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is evidence in media reports that the lack of public participation impedes the lawmaking process. We as the Parliament, we have experienced situations where we have been challenged in court, or the courts have nullified laws passed by Parliament for failing to conduct adequate Parliament participation. So here you can see how serious we are with public participation. To boost authority of the laws that we pass, Parliament should enhance public participation because the Constitution of Kenya cedes the sovereignty to the people of Kenya, and therefore the people's voice should be heard in all matters as concerns to governance. I notice the CPST has put together a very comprehensive program, that's why we are here, and the topics selected are well suited toward catalyzing discussions on best practices for equipping legislatures in their primary roles of legislation, representation, and oversight. I therefore urge all of us to follow the proceedings keenly and to seek for clarifications where necessary. I am confident that at the end of this workshop, we will not only be more enlightened, but we will fully comprehend and encompass public participation to deliver on Parliament's mandate. I urge the CPST to continue holding this discussion nationally, internationally, with the view to nurture a sustainable culture of public participation in Kenya. As I finish, honorable members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, allow me to remind all of us that as members, we are auditors of government and guardians of all the public interest. It is my hope that at the end of this forum, would have picked strategies of enhancing our engagement with the public. I look forward to engaging an interactive session throughout the symposia, and once again, thank you all and the parliamentary leadership present, specifically, this is Mr. Speaker, kindly Leader of Majority, let our Speaker, who is the chairman, get to know this, that we really appreciate his leadership and for finding it fit to send you as Leader of Majority to come and represent our Speaker to attend this great event, which is our third symposia. Before I finish, I wish to now introduce the board members of CPST board, which is also, we look at it as one of the committees of Parliamentary Service Commission. It's only that it is a board. And I'll give an opportunity to one of the members just to come and say jambo. The rest, I'll introduce them. And before us, I'll start from my left. I have Commissioner John Nderitu Kinywa, who is the Senator of County of Laikipia. You'll be interacting with him during the sessions because most of the board members will be chairing various sessions in this 2 days event. I'll also want to introduce a Commissioner, Honorable Mishi Mboko, MP of Likoni, that is Mombasa, Likoni constituency in Mombasa. She's also a member of the board. I also have Commissioner, we call him Commissioner Chairman. He's a chair of other many, the Leader of Majority knows he's the chair. Leader of Majority is the chair, and I'll give Commissioner Johnston Modama an opportunity. Please come and speak on behalf of other members of the board and commissioners who are not here with us. And also, I want to appreciate Professor Maria Nzomo, who is, she's a visiting professor. She's currently in Poland. We want also to acknowledge that you are here with us online. So, karibu, Commissioner Johnston Modama. You speak on behalf of other commissioners who are not here with us. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Chairman or Chairperson of CPST. It is a great opportunity for me to have this chance to greet the invited guests and also recognize the representation of the Speaker through the Majority Leader, Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah, and also recognize our key speaker, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, who is a long-time great friend of mine. Recognize our senior clerk. I heard ED here, Professor Nyogabi, saying that he received a badge which he indicated is the deputy clerk, but he's one of the senior clerks in our parliamentary leadership. And also recognize the chair of CPST and all other guests who are here. I understand also we are joined by our good friends from our continent, and we say we also extend our welcome to you. On behalf of Parliamentary Service Commission, we have not much to say. Our position was to have speakers today to move us forward on the issues that needs to be understood by those who are in the leadership in Parliament. As has been said by the chair here, we traveled to Montreal, Canada, and we were many because also the majority leader was there. What came out, and I don't want to praise my country, but what came out there is that we were far away and more far away in comparison to other countries when it came to applying and practicing democracy. We realized that Kenya had made very, very many steps in achieving democracy, and it was being practiced. Since it's not our day, we also want to listen and learn what we are being told. We are prepared for the meeting, and whatever is presented here, we will take it seriously as the PSC, because we are the caretakers of our two houses, that is National Assembly and the Senate. And seriously, we will consider everything that we discussed here. We have our notes, we have our clerks, and this is going to be a great benefit for our people of Kenya, not only parliamentarians. I welcome you and tell you that we are ready to listen. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Modhama. And at this point, I'll want to give 1 minute to the Clerk of National Assembly, represented by our Deputy Clerk, Madam Sarah Kioko. Madam Sarah Kioko, just come and say 1 or 2 words to our guests who are here today. Karibu, Madam Sarah Kioko.
The Honorable Majority Leader of the National Assembly, the Chair of the CPST Board, our Chief Guest, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, the Clerk of the Senate, the ED, CPST, our guest, Bwana Robert, the Commissioners of the Parliamentary Service Commission, chairs of committees from the National Assembly, the Clerk of the Parliament of Zimbabwe, and all invited guests, good morning. Thank you, Chair. You have taken me by surprise, but I am grateful for this opportunity to say hi. And as I was listening to the ED when she gave her introductory remarks, she did say that we have had 3 symposiums of the CPST during the current bicameral legislature of Kenya, or since the promulgation of the Constitution. But I do recall, and maybe you may not know, that I was one of the founder officers of the CPST, the very first officials from the Parliament of Kenya that went to establish the CPST. I was one of them. And I do recall that we had a symposium. So this should be the 4th symposium. We had a symposium pre-2010 Constitution. I think it was around the time the Constitution was promulgated. I think it was 2011 when we had the first symposium. And it was an international symposium because we had delegates from all over the world. I remember it was a big symposium at the Windsor Golf Club. And I am grateful that the CPST has made many strides. Many times when you're constructing a house, the people who dig the trenches, the ones who cut the trees at the place where you build the house, the ones who dig the trenches, the ones who do the foundation, indeed the ones who construct the house, tend to be forgotten. But that is the most important work of the house. So the CPST has come a long way. I am proud that I was in the initial group that worked on the manuals of the CPST. And the CPST has come a long way. And I believe the CPST is going very far. I was just thinking about the topic, the theme of this conference, the public participation, and looking at our country. Last night I was listening to something that comes after News in the Citizen. What is that? The thing that comes with the 4, what do you call it? The news gang. I was listening to the news gang last night, and they had a bit on the public participation on the current finance bill. And I couldn't help getting amused at the far that Kenyans have come. Because Kenyans were asking questions, especially around taxation on the finance bill. And some were really centering on the housing levy. Interesting clips were played by the gang. And I remember also listening to the chair, Finance Committee, and he said they had received over 1,000 memoranda on the finance bill. I have watched and seen that there were so many oral representations on the finance bill 2023. Very many. I think the committee could not, if it was to listen to everybody, it would sit for many months. So that tells you that Kenyans are alert. Kenyans want to be involved. And thank goodness for our Constitution, because our Constitution has given public participation anchor in it. And I do not want to repeat what the clerk said, because quite a number of articles in the Constitution give reference to the issue of public participation, and Kenyans are embracing it by the day. Think of over 1,000 memoranda. Think of those representation in the finance bill. And that is only one bill. Every bill that is, including the estimates, Kenyans have said something about the current estimates and other bills that are before Parliament. So we really want to appreciate the principle of public participation, and I am looking forward to hearing exactly how do we make public participation better? How do we involve involve Kenyans more in the processes of parliament, because that is what our constitution expects us to do. And because I'm not one of the speakers, in fact, I was caught off guard. I just want to sit down and listen, and thank you so much, Chair CPST, for according me this opportunity. Have a nice and fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our Deputy Clerk, Madam Sarah Kioko. Yeah, it is like you are really prepared, and that's how we are supposed to be. Anytime you're called upon, you have to be ready, because you are serving the public. Thank you so much. So you've all heard, Wakenya tumechanuka, which means Kenyans are alert. They look, where are we supposed to be? Where is this public participation? So Kenyans are alert, and that is why we are here, public participation. So at this point, allow me to invite the leader of majority in National Assembly of Kenya, none other than Kimani Ichung'wah.
Thank you, Chair of our board of CPST, honorable members present, the commissioners present of our Parliamentary Service Commission, our visiting clerk and your delegation from the Parliament of Zimbabwe, the CPST partners present, led by Robertson Kabusha here, all our distinguished presenters and all guests, good morning. Probably before I read the speech that I am to do on behalf of our Speaker of the National Assembly, let me just take this opportunity to also welcome you here. And maybe to reiterate what has been said by Commissioner Ameso, mentioned by Commissioner Mudhama, and in a sense what Sarah Kioko has said, that indeed, as a country, public participation for us in this country since 2010, after the promulgation of our new constitution, has been one of our key elements in legislation making, and indeed even in formulation of policies in government, because we see even in the executive when they are formulating policy, engaging with the public. And I must agree when Director, when we attended the training in Montreal with a number of the commissioners who have mentioned, including the chairperson, it is indeed true that our country emerged as one of the leaders, especially on the question of public participation. And I'm saying that to encourage you, Madam Executive Director, as has been said, probably it's time that you host an international symposium to teach the rest of the world, even as we learn and share experiences with them on what we are doing in public participation, and also improve on it, because we all have learnings to learn from each other around the world, and I'm sure even our colleagues from Zimbabwe here will share their experiences, and we'll be able to learn something from their experiences back home. With those very brief remarks, I do hope that then, in line with the theme of this symposium, that of effective public participation, and it is a big question for legislatures. And if you allow me to paraphrase that, Madam Director, we should probably ask ourselves as legislatures, how effective then is our public participation, even for those of us in Kenya who are priding ourselves that we might be a little bit ahead of even most of our more advanced democracies. How effective is that public participation? Do the people of Kenya feel that that process is not just superficial? Do they feel that their views and their perspectives are actually taken into account from the output, whether it is a legislative proposal that we are taking through public participation, or as Sarah Kioko mentions, the finance bill, because that is a very pregnant question in the country today. And Kenyans are giving all manner of views. And some from where we sit may look ignorant, some may look like they are basically discussions out of lack of knowledge of the issues that are before us. But the big question then for us as legislators is, do the people feel that you listened to them, you took their views and their perspective into account, even at the time we come to enact that legislation or the finance bill and other legislations that will be before us in our respective assemblies, whether it's the National Assembly, the Senate, or even in our county assemblies? Do the public have confidence that their views have been taken into account? And I do hope that at the end of the symposium, we will have improved even on our public perception, so that the public do not view that what we do is superficial. And I think that is the pregnant question Sarah was referring to, that in a way, and especially this is driven mostly by the media. And I'm glad you mentioned the news gang. The other day I was listening to JKL Live also, and I saw the outgoing provost of ACK, the ACK church in Nairobi, All Saints Cathedral, Reverend Wainaina. And when I listened to him, I actually asked myself, has he read the finance bill that he is discussing on national TV? And therefore, there are questions that we must also look into, even as we listen to the public. We must also formulate ways and institutionalize ways in our legislatures where we effectively educate the public on what the proposals that we are considering are all about, so that they also appear before you with knowledge of what is before Parliament. Therefore, honorable guests, allow me now to read on behalf of the Speaker of the National Assembly his speech. And it begins by welcoming you all to Naivasha, and indeed for our visitors visiting from outside this country to Kenya. We're indeed grateful to CPST for organizing this third annual Parliamentary Symposium under the theme of effective public participation, the big question for legislatures. Public participation in legislative processes is a mandatory constitutional and statutory requirement in Kenya. And indeed, Article 118 of the Constitution requires that Parliament conducts its business openly, and its sittings and those of all its committees be open to the public. It further requires the facilitation of public participation and the people's involvement in the legislative and other business of Parliament and all its committees. Also at the county level, Article 196 of the Constitution requires the county assemblies to facilitate public participation and also the people's involvement in their legislative and other business of the assemblies and their committees. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, public participation is a founding principle of democracy and a fundamental requirement of law. In Kenya, public participation is recognized as a crucial element of good governance and is enshrined in the national values and principles of governance in our Constitution. The principle of public participation asserts that the people have the right to participate in decision-making processes that affect their lives and the development of laws and policies that govern them. It emphasizes that the government and all its institutions should actively involve and engage citizens in these processes, ensuring that their voices are heard, their opinions considered, and their perspectives taken into account. This principle applies to all state organs, state officers, public officers, and individuals whenever they enact, apply, or interpret any law or policy. It serves as a guiding principle that promotes transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in governance. Public participation is therefore a fundamental aspect of any democratic society and it ensures that citizens have a voice in decision-making processes that affect their lives. It enables individuals and communities to express their opinions, contribute their perspectives, and influence the development of laws and policies that govern the people. Ladies and gentlemen, recognizing that public participation is such a fundamental requirement of the law and ensures that citizens have the right to be informed, consulted, and actively participate in shaping their society. It provides a legal basis for individuals and communities to assert their democratic rights and influence the decisions that will affect them either directly or indirectly. Anchoring public participation in the national values and principles of governance reflects Kenya's commitment to create a participatory and inclusive society where the voice of every citizen is heard and considered in decision-making. For effective public participation, the relevant state organ, state officer, or public officer must provide meaningful opportunities for public participation in the lawmaking process and take measures to enable the people to take advantage of the opportunities provided. Indeed, the Parliament of Kenya has taken steps to implement various mechanisms to facilitate public participation in legislative processes. While it is true that more can always be done to enhance public participation, the existing mechanisms, including inviting memoranda, holding public hearings, stakeholder engagement, consultation of experts, and even public petitions, are indeed important steps towards ensuring a more inclusive and participatory democracy. While these mechanisms demonstrate a commitment to public participation, it is important to continuously evaluate their effectiveness and explore additional avenues for engagement. Efforts should therefore be made to reach a broader spectrum of the population, particularly our marginalized communities and vulnerable groups, to ensure that their voices are heard and their needs and perspectives are taken into account. Moreover, it is essential to create an environment that encourages genuine dialogue and meaningful participation, where the inputs provided by the public are not only considered, but are also effectively incorporated into the decision-making process. This requires strengthening institutional capacities, raising awareness about the importance of public participation, and ensuring that the feedback received is transparently addressed and reflected in the final legislative outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, overall, while Parliament has implemented certain participation mechanisms, there is always room for improvement to ensure that public participation becomes an integral and impactful aspect of the legislative processes in Kenya and indeed in all our partner states. The significance of this symposium therefore lies in its focus on public participation within the legislative context. It brings together experts, scholars, like our good friend, Professor Governor Kivutha Kibwana, and policymakers, and provides a platform for exchanging knowledge and engaging in academic discourse on this crucial topic. It will indeed enhance our understanding of public participation and its implications for legislative and policy measures in Kenya. Exploring public participation at this symposium, participants will have the opportunity to delve into various dimensions of the topic. They can discuss theoretical frameworks, empirical research, case studies, and practical experiences related to public participation in Kenya. This multidisciplinary approach will foster a comprehensive understanding of the challenges, best practices, and potential strategies for enhancing public participation in our country, and as indeed mentioned, in our partner states and our neighbors and friends. The insights therefore gained from this symposium will play a pivotal role in shaping legislative and policy measures that promote and safeguard the right to public participation. It will help in identifying pertinent areas of improvements, propose mechanisms to overcome barriers to participation, and develop strategies to ensure inclusive and meaningful engagement of citizens in the decision-making processes. Ultimately, the objective is to advance the full realization of the right to public participation in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, you will recall, especially those of us in Kenya who were in the last parliament, that the Honorable Chris Wamalwa proposed a bill to provide for the framework of public participation. I therefore expect, as one of the outputs of this symposium, a sound legislative proposal that we shall sponsor and support to fruition will emanate from this symposium. It is indeed an undisputed fact that public participation is a fluid and multifaceted principle that is constantly changing and evolving with a constantly changing world, and that there is need for a proper framework to regulate and ensure consistency in the conduct of public participation. Furthermore, I do hope that this forum will accord us the platform to share the best practices and learn from your detailed and well-analyzed papers to ensure the full implementation of public participation in the legislative processes in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, I now wish, on behalf of the Speaker of the National Assembly, to wish you fruitful engagements and now declare the 3rd Annual Parliamentary Symposium officially opened. Thank you.